Welcome to Forbidden Files. On the night of September 26, 1983, a 44-year-old Soviet officer sat alone in a bunker outside Moscow and made a decision that may have saved every person alive on Earth today. He had 10 minutes. The computer in front of him was screaming that America had launched nuclear missiles. Protocol said report it immediately. Report it, and the Soviet Union would launch its own missiles within minutes. He did not report it. He was right. He spent the rest of his life being punished for it. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand the world in September 1983, a month in which the world came closer to nuclear war than at almost any other point in history, and most people alive at the time had no idea. In March 1983, President Ronald Reagan had delivered his Evil Empire speech, publicly declaring the Soviet Union a force of darkness that America was in a moral struggle against. Days later, he announced the Strategic Defense Initiative, a program to build space-based weapons capable of shooting down Soviet missiles. In Moscow, the aging Soviet leadership read these announcements with genuine fear. They believed Reagan was preparing for a first strike, not as a theoretical concern, as an operational reality they were planning around. As an operational reality. Then, on September 1st, 1983, 3 weeks before Petrov's night shift, a Soviet fighter jet shot down Korean Airlines Flight 007, a civilian passenger aircraft that had drifted off course into Soviet airspace. 269 people died, including a United States congressman. The international reaction was furious. Reagan called it a massacre by Soviet aggressors. In Moscow, the government was defensive, isolated, and convinced that Western condemnation was the precursor to something worse. It was in this atmosphere that Stanislav Petrov reported for duty on the evening of September 25, 1983. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Soviet Air Defense Forces, a software engineer who had helped design parts of the early warning system itself. He was not supposed to be there that night. He was filling in for a colleague who had called in sick. He took his seat at the command center of the OCO satellite system, a network of 9 satellites monitoring American missile fields around the clock. The first few hours of the shift passed quietly. Shortly after midnight on September 26, the alarm went off. A single word appeared on the main display panel in large red letters: launch. The system was reporting that one intercontinental ballistic missile had been launched from Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, headed toward the Soviet Union. The computer assessed the reliability of the detection and rated it high. The bunker erupted. Officers and operators around Petrov began shouting. The OCO system was designed to give the Soviet Union the precious minutes it needed to launch a retaliatory strike before American warheads destroyed Soviet nuclear forces. Protocol was clear: report the launch up the chain of command immediately. That report would go to the General Staff, from there to the National Command Authority, the men with the nuclear briefcase. Petrov had approximately 10 minutes before the missiles, if they were real, would be detected by ground radar as they crested the horizon. Petrov did not report it, not immediately. He ran through everything he knew. He had been briefed many times that an American first strike would be massive, hundreds of missiles launched simultaneously to destroy Soviet nuclear forces before they could respond. One missile made no strategic sense. A single warhead could not disable Soviet retaliatory capability. No American military planner would design a first strike around one missile, and the OCO system, which Petrov had helped build, was new. He knew its limitations. He suspected it could be wrong. Then the system reported 4 more missiles, 5 total, all headed toward the Soviet Union from the United States. The computer's reliability assessment remained high. The bunker was in full alarm. Officers were looking at Petrov, waiting. The 10 minutes were running. Still, Petrov did not report a confirmed attack. 5 missiles, not 500, not the massive coordinated strike that every briefing had told him to expect. And critically, the ground-based radar installations that should have independently confirmed the launch were showing nothing. No missiles rising above the horizon. The satellite system was screaming. The ground radar was silent. One of them was wrong. Petrov decided it was the satellite. He picked up the phone and reported to his superiors that the system had malfunctioned, that the launch detection was a false alarm. He did not know this for certain. He could not know it for certain. If he was wrong, Soviet missiles would not launch in time. If he was right, he had just prevented a retaliatory nuclear strike against the United States that would have killed hundreds of millions of people and almost certainly triggered an American counter-response that would have ended civilization. He made his call and waited. 20 minutes passed. No missiles arrived. 25 minutes, still nothing. At 30 minutes, it was clear. No strike was coming. The OCO satellite system had produced a catastrophic false alarm. Investigation later determined the cause, a rare and freak alignment of sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds that the satellite had misread as the heat signature of missile launches, a configuration that had never been observed before and was never observed again. The system was later corrected. The investigation that followed was intense. Petrov was questioned for hours by his superiors. He was told, initially, that his actions had been correct. General Yuri Votintsev, the first commander to hear Petrov's report, stated publicly years later that Petrov's actions were duly noted and praised as correct. Petrov himself was told he would receive a reward. The reward never came. Instead, Petrov was reprimanded. The official reason, improper paperwork. He had not filled in the military diary correctly during the incident. But the real reason Petrov believed was more uncomfortable. If he was officially rewarded for correctly identifying a false alarm, then the scientists and commanders responsible for the faulty system would have to be officially punished. The system that had nearly ended the world had been designed and approved by powerful people. Rewarding Petrov meant admitting they had built something that almost killed everyone. So instead, Petrov was quietly reassigned to a less sensitive post and told not to discuss it. Petrov took early retirement not long after. He moved to a small apartment in Fryezovo, a suburb northeast of Moscow. He did not speak about what had happened. His wife did not know for 10 years. When she finally found out and asked what he had done that night, he told her. She could not understand why he had not been decorated. Neither could he. The story only became public in 1998, 15 years after the incident, when General Votintsev revealed it in his memoirs. The reaction was immediate. The idea that one man on one night shift, filling in for a sick colleague, had been the difference between civilization and nuclear war captured something essential about the danger of the world humanity had built. Recognition came slowly and from outside Russia. In 2013, 30 years after the incident, Petrov received the Dresden Peace Prize in Germany. The award came with 25,000 euros. In 2018, a year after his death, he was posthumously honored with the $50,000 Future of Life Award in New York. Former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon spoke at the ceremony. "It is hard to imagine anything more devastating for humanity than all-out nuclear war," he said. Yet this might have occurred by accident on September 26, 1983, were it not for the wise decisions of Stanislav Petrov. He said, Petrov gave interviews in his later years, reluctantly and with characteristic modesty. He said he did not consider himself a hero. He said he had been lucky. Lucky that his instincts were right. Lucky that the ground radar was working. Lucky that the system had not malfunctioned in a way that produced a less obviously suspicious result. 1,000 missiles instead of 5, and he might have reported it. And Petrov's night was not even the only near miss of that autumn. The exercise simulated a coordinated nuclear response to a Soviet attack, using new communication procedures and involving heads of government in ways previous exercises had not. Soviet intelligence, already convinced that Reagan was preparing for a first strike, interpreted the exercise as the real thing. Nuclear weapons were transported to launch sites. A fleet of bombers loaded with nuclear warheads was scrambled. The Soviet leadership handed Andropov the nuclear briefcase. The exercise was stopped from escalating by an American officer named Leonard Perutz, a senior Air Force intelligence officer in Europe who noticed that the Soviets were responding as if Able Archer were real. Protocol said he should raise Western alert levels in response. He did not. He waited. The Soviets eventually realized the exercise was not an attack and stood down. The Foreign Intelligence Advisory Board later called his decision fortuitous, if ill-informed. In the autumn of 1983, the world was saved twice, by two men who chose independently not to follow protocol. Medium pause. Stanislav Petrov died on May 19, 2017. He was 77 years old. He died alone in his apartment in Fryazovo. His son tried to call him for weeks before learning what had happened. The news of his death was barely noticed at the time. A small obituary here, a brief news item there. The man who may have saved the world died quietly in a suburb of Moscow, largely unrecognized by the country he had served. Petrov's story raises a question that is more relevant today than it was in 1983. Nuclear early warning systems are faster now, more automated. The time between detection and a required response decision has not grown longer. In some scenarios, it has shrunk. The role of a single human officer with the judgment to question a computer is not larger than it was in 1983. It may be smaller. What saved the world on September 26, 1983 was not a system. It was a man who had helped build the system and therefore knew exactly how it could fail. Stanislav Petrov was filling in for a sick colleague. He was in a job he was not supposed to have that night. He made a decision in 10 minutes that he could not verify. He was right. He was punished, and he died without the recognition he deserved. History is full of people whose names we remember for far less. There are dozens of stories like this one that most people never hear. Subscribe, and we'll keep finding them.